Hey, what's up? GW coming to you live. What can I tell you? First of all, a couple of big shout outs to people that have watched the channel, that I have mentioned. First, the Heave Ho. He's another YouTube creator. And when I did my review of The Substance, he actually watched it, and I'm glad. And it's got a heck of a lot of views, so thank you guys for checking that out. But I convinced him to rewatch the movie and to check it out because I told him, well, I explained in my review that that's a movie you do need to watch a couple of times over because you're going to miss details and whatnot. And I think there's a lot more stories that can be told in the Substance universe should the directors even explore that. The second shout out I want to give is to uh, Amanda Cushing. I mentioned her before. She's been a really awesome friend, a really good supporter of not only what I do here, but also personally. And she's going to leave her job to become a full time mom. And I think that's pretty courageous. And she's also a very wonderful person. So I wish her the best of luck in her endeavors. And I hope that, one day, we can get together, do lunch, whatever have you. I also want to give a big shout out to Anderson Windows. They they really replaced a couple of windows for us, and those guys rocked. So if you're ever looking for window replacement or door replacement, check those guys out. They are pretty awesome. And I can't really say enough of how much effort they put into it. We watched them replace some windows, and I'll tell you what, those guys rock. And I'm not just saying that. So, what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about a movie called Dead Male. Dead Male is currently streaming on Shudder, and it's an interesting little horror gem. Actually, it's set in the '80s, and it actually looks like something that could be a true story. You know, it's a slow burn movie. There's not a lot of gore involved, but it's more suspenseful. But it treads on the light side of suspense. I mean, if you're not into it, you're going to get bored pretty quickly. I've heard about this movie through Fangora magazine and you know YouTube reviews. People were raving about it, and it captures the '80s. And it what I like about it is that it doesn't. The budget is not overblown. It's not some ridiculous slasher, but it's a slow burn kidnapping sort of serial. I wouldn't say serial killer, but psycho out there. So let's get into the ins and the outs and should you watch it. Well, as I just told you, it's a slow burn movie. If you don't sit down and watch it as a whole, you're gonna miss some things, but there is a lot going for it. Especially, the one of the things that I liked is the photography of the film, how it does look like something out of the early '80s, maybe possibly late '70s in terms of color and whatnot. Um, it has a really interesting premise. Basically, it's about a letter that is found in one of these post offices or post mail bins, rather, that you guys see in the city. You know, those big blue things, right? In the beginning of the movie, you see a chained up man with a bloody letter, which is kind of like a message, and he sends it via post office. Um, then it shifts gears into the post office itself, and we see the post office employees trying to figure out where this come from, and it actually ends up in a dead letter bin, which one of our main characters, Jasper, played by Thomas Boykin, who is really good, and he investigates where this originated from. Um, and he's like the most popular dude in the post office because he's like a rock star, the rock star of the postal world. He can get things done. He has a hell of a lot of charm. He has cute coworkers that are pretty much all over him, and his job is to check it out. Now, we do know Jasper's character, or Jasper, is on a lot of hardships because he stays at a group home for men because his life, something happened in his life, and we don't know what, that places him here. Now, you got to pay attention to the beginning because, like I said, if you don't watch this as a whole, you're going to miss things and you're not going to connect some dots. But he meets Trent, and Trent is weird to say the least because as soon as he shows up, the movie pivots from a straight investigation movie to borderline, uh, what's the word I'm looking for? Borderline psycho domino effect, if you will, but a very slow one. Once Trent comes into the story, the movie shifts gears and shows you what happened before the very opening shot of the movie and why Trent's character, who's played by John Fleck, has a man chained up in his house. And it also reminds you of actually, all these kidnapping cases. The one kidnapping case that came to mind when I was watching it was the Ariel Castro thing. I don't know why, but it just popped into my head and it made sense. But Josh is the man that is tied up and chained up in uh, Trent's house. How it got there is sort of an interesting, off kilter situation. Basically, Trent, um, who's played by again John Fleck. Trent is a synthesizer enthusiast. Now, if you guys remember, synthesizers were pretty big in the 80s, and they did a lot of things with them. I think every 80s band in the country at that time used synthesizers to replace, general pianos that couldn't really, do the job whenever they needed them to, or they just upped them and high powered them. But the relationship between Josh and Trent start over synthesizers. Trent wants a synthesizer built because he loves this woodwind tone, and you hear that throughout the video. In fact, that's the one thing about this movie. If you don't like classical music, which is played all throughout this movie for about 1 hour and 45 minutes, you're going to want to listen to something else. But they soon form a partnership, Josh and Trent, and basically Trent bankrolls Josh for whatever he needs. If he needs new speakers, Trent will go and buy it. If he needs new circuitry from Japan, which is hard to get, which it was in the 80s, he'll get that too. So they were going to split the funds 50-50, and then Josh actually, behind Trent's back, sells out to a Japanese company. I believe it was Yokohama, Instruments or something like that. They show a little form in the movie. And then Trent just goes off the rails and basically, kidnaps Josh and makes him work for him. And then it circles back to, how the letter came to be and what happened. It is a slow burn. It's worth a watch. I don't think I would buy it, but what I liked about it was after you're done watching it, you realize that it's grounded in realism. That it almost looks like I said something that could actually happen. As far as gore goes, there's really not much to it. We see a drill go into a character's back, strangulations, a couple of blunt instrument, hits to the head. I don't really think there's anything else, going on. Um, the cast is pretty good. The cast consists of